Now, given those regional changes of an Iran that is much stronger, an Iran that is very candidly declaring its ideology and working towards achieving it in Lebanon, in the Palestinian Authority. They want to inflict changes in Saudi Arabia. They try to create havoc in Egypt. It's an Iran, and obviously among Muslim minorities in Europe. It's an Iran that has a clear long-term strategy, and here we need a Germany that is not only talks the talk and says the right things about the Iranian threat, but a Germany that is a lot more determined to face this threat, to impose economic sanctions, to remove, and here there's a price has to be paid. I know that some German companies are profiting from the relations with Iran, and I understand that when in politics you have to make decisions where you have to pay or give up on one interest in order to promote another, it's not simple. But this is required. It's in the German interest, not only because of values and a moral and ethical obligation, it's in the clear European and German interest to face Iran before it becomes a nuclear power, before it can distribute those nuclear weapons in various forms to Hamas, to Hezbollah, to the Muslim Brotherhood, and to minorities of crazy organizations here in Europe. This is a real threat. And it requires, this real threat requires real action. Now finally, there's another change that occurs today in the world. It's a change in the nature of warfare. Warfare today is governed by norms and by legal arrangements and by international legal arrangements that have been established post-World War II and as a result of the trauma of World War II. The Geneva Conventions and all of these different arrangements and understandings that basically allow us to allow armies and organized militaries to engage in combat, but leave citizens and civilians and uninvolved citizens, they leave them aside and protect them legally. This is a moral and just arrangement, but we have to understand one thing. Today, those norms and rules are being exploited cynically, hypocritically by Iran and its offshoots in the Middle East, and they're sending them also to Europe. Today, the nature of warfare is such that Hezbollah is supposedly, there's a UN resolution that Hezbollah cannot arm and equip itself. Hezbollah today has rockets in every school, clinic, private homes in southern Lebanon, and upon an instruction from Iran, Hezbollah can start shooting at Israeli towns and villages, all from northern Israel down to central Tel Aviv. This is what Hezbollah will do. Now what will Israel do? Israel will respond and try to target those missiles and rockets and in those villages, and in those schools, and in those clinics. It will warn the civilian population in Shiite villages and tell them to leave up north. Some will not leave, and as a result, there will be civilian casualties. And then we will hear the hypocritical cry from some in the international community, and obviously led by Iran and its cynical partners. Israel is violating human rights and so on, because the whole way they design their doctrine is to exploit Western sensitivities of how to engage in warfare. It's the same with Hamas, it's the same with Hezbollah. They're going to do the same here in Europe, and therefore we have to understand that the nature of warfare today has changed. It's no longer going to be a regular army against a regular army. Israel today is going to be attacked, and I hope it's not going to happen, but it might happen, and if I have to make an assessment, it probably will happen. We will be attacked by Hezbollah from the north with Iranian and Syrian instruction, and this attack will be from within the civilian population, and we have to understand that we cannot legitimize that, because for them today it's a win-win. If Israel does not respond and they attack our civilian and military installations, they win. If we respond, they also win, because they'll show all the nice pictures and everything. The nature of warfare has changed. We still have to care about human rights, to conserve human rights, to care about civilians, but we have to remember that the way, and to send a clear message to Iran and its allies, the way you created, or the kind of warfare that you plan to engage will not be in your favor, and whatever civilian casualties will be on your side are your responsibility. And this is a clear message that has to come. This is a clear message that has to come not only from Israel, but from our European allies that have a moral voice in the international community. That moral and hypocritical manipulation of Western standards of warfare will not be accepted. Those manipulations will not be accepted by the international community. So, my dear friends, as I alluded in my words, our challenges are great. We have a strong foundation of a strong past and strong shared values and strong mutual interests. But I really hope that we will have the guts and the wisdom to deal with them, and the importance of such conventions and conferences, and I hope that this conference will take place again and again, is to send a clear message to the decision makers that it's only the Israeli-German relations and joint interests are not only a matter for some people in the Foreign Office or in the Parliament who care about those issues, but it's a matter for the German people and the Israeli people, for German civil society and Israeli civil society, for all of us together. This is the importance of those gatherings. Thanks a lot.